It's early in the morning on an auspicious day, which is the 810th year anniversary of the city of Riga. It was founded in 1201. Riga began to develop as a center of Viking trade during the early Middle Ages. Latvia is home to a large number of ethnic Russians. Latvia is historically predominantly Lutheran Protestant. Roughly half of all the jobs in Latvia are in Riga, and the city generates more than 50% of Latvia's GDP. Riga is one of the key economic and financial centers of the Baltic states. Riga, since 1201, has historically been a significant trading point in the Baltic Sea region. In its 800 years of turbulent history, everyone from German knights to Swedish kings and Soviet commissars have left their footprints. The town hall square in Riga has been completely rebuilt. Since during World War II, the square and its historic buildings were destroyed. The House of the Blackheads is a venue for exhibitions, concerts, and other events, and the Latvian President's temporary residence. The House of Blackheads was built in 1334 as a venue for meetings and banquets held by Riga's various public organizations. The opulent facade feature various architectural styles and artistic trends of various periods. A Saint Roland statue stands in the middle of the town hall square. Saint Roland was a nephew of Charlemagne and a Frankish military leader. The land he had occupied was governed stringently but justly. Thus, he gradually became the symbol of justice in northern Germany. Now, several towns have Saint Roland statues. This is basically what most will be doing most of the day, sitting and walking around in their costumes. This celebration probably had been celebrated for the last several hundred years. It's hard to be extremely happy year in and year out. However, it is worthwhile mentioning that a lot of the local products being sold at the stalls to eat are different, tasty, enjoyable, and highly recommended. The town musicians of Bremen Sculpture is a gift from the city of Bremen, Germany. The first version of the sculpture is in Bremen. The sculpture is based on a fairy tale by the Grimm brothers. This, however, was created with a political subtext as it was inspired by Mikhail Gorbachev's Perestroika. It's within the town center. That was truly one of the best musical buskers we've come across in all of the places we've been to. This Estonian musician reminds me of Jamie Cullum. The food in Estonia is a carnivorous paradise. No vegetarian or vegan. And just like the servings in other restaurants we've been to in the strip, the quantity was beyond our consumption. This is from the 11th floor of our hotel, where there's a bar and a protruding deck with a view of Riga. After the city tour and lunch at the old town center, We decided to rest for a while before heading back to Alberta Street again. It was not such a good idea since we found out that the span of the festivities in Riga is quite short. That's where we just came from. By late afternoon, things were already starting to wind down, both at the Old Town and at Alberta Street.
Did you enjoy Riga? Yes. Had a lovely time. Look at the weather. My. Okay, let's see what happens next.
We're leaving Riga to go to our third Baltic country, which is Estonia. Tallinn is the capital of Estonia. However, we'll be taking a look at the beach at Pärnu before heading to Tallinn. Riga was a gem among the stones of this Scandinavia and the Baltics trip. It was a Barcelona of a different kind. I've had the same happy, wonderful feeling of discovery of what houses can look like in other parts of the world. I would not mind staying 2 or 3 more days to admire the old city and try to feel what it was throughout its history. There was no time to take a look at the interior of the House of Blackheads and several other buildings. Typically, the reason for this is you have to keep on following the guide, else there's that real threat of getting lost. Sometimes we are just unaware of the existence of major attractions due to the lack of research on the place we will be traveling to. That's the border, and we just left Riga and are now in Estonia. Estonia has been inhabited since at least 9000 BC. Estonia had centuries of successive German, Danish, Swedish, and Russian rule. During World War II, Estonia suffered successive occupations by the Soviet Union, Nazi Germany, and the Soviet Union again, resulting in its annexation as the Estonian Soviet Socialist Republic. In 1987, the peaceful singing revolution against the Soviet rule began. It culminated with the restoration of its independence in 1991. The population of Estonia is 1.3 million. Pärnu is the 4th largest city in Estonia. It is a popular summer holiday resort with many hotels, restaurants, and large beaches. The Pärnu River flows through the city and drains into the Gulf of Riga. A long tradition as a resort has made Pärnu well known in Finland and other Scandinavian countries. Majority of the tourists in Pärnu are Finns, Swedes, and Russians.
R-A-N-N-A beach. Where do I look?
Which part of Estonia?
Pärnu.
Pärnu is Estonia.
We're on our way to the central area of Pärnu where the restaurants are to get some lunch. This is one of the few days in our trip wherein lunch is included for the day. Breakfast is the only meal at the hotel included every day. Once in a while, lunch or dinner is included in very special places. However, the kind of food served are typically not special. Pärnu felt like a sleepy kind of town. I would imagine that the local tourists are working, so that this would be a lean day for the resort city. It's not really a major destination for foreign travelers, but it is a charming place.
You will see the blue banner. If you stand closer to the road, you can already see it. The blue banner. And that blue banner.
Throughout a long tour, there would be times when places we go to would have foreign as well as an abundance of local tourists. Being just us, and a small number at that, made it quite relaxing. Having meals like this bond fellow travelers together. It would be pragmatic to talk about past traveling experiences, as this is the venue to get good feedbacks from on where to go. There would be seasoned travelers. It would be nice to hear stories from them or share stories with them. Just the fact that they come from a different country, it would be nice to hear about the kind of place he or she comes from. When you get home, there would be fewer people you can talk with about traveling. For me, traveling includes the appreciation of benches like this. Is it just aesthetics or is it comfortable? The appreciation of flowers like this, religiously cared for by the local residents. This group having lunch on the right looks like the kind of tourists we are. Retired Australians and North Americans are usually half our companions. Plans for future travel is a good topic among fellow travelers like this. The Orthodox Church was unfortunately closed. No Orthodox church has disappointed us yet, so they're highly recommended places to visit. Tallinn is the capital and largest city of Estonia. From the 13th century until 1918, in languages other than Estonian, the city was known as Reval. Tallinn was first mentioned in 1219, but the earliest human settlements date back 5,000 years. The initial claim over the land was laid by the Danes in 1219. Tallinn is a birthplace of many international companies, including Skype. Tallinn is the major political, financial, cultural, and educational center in Estonia, often dubbed the Silicon Valley of Europe. In fact, the computer support person who came to our room to fix the PC was a girl. We'll also be seeing the dignity of work at places in Scandinavia. It is impressive to see not just the past, but the present situation of successful countries. In the old days in Estonia, when people saw a chimney sweeper, they did all they could to touch the button of his coat. It was considered especially lucky if you could rub his buttons. The old towns of a lot of European countries has an old part and a new part. Although the city or country itself is highly developed and prosperous, they preserve the most important parts of the city with the most history for the tourist. Cobblestones are not comfortable to walk on, and we've seen tourists fall due to its uneven surface. It can be quite dangerous. However, the stones being there for hundreds of years are part of the history of the city. The town square of Tallinn is not as striking as the town square of Riga. It does not have as much Art Nouveau houses as Alberta Street and the stunning house of Blackheads at Riga. Riga was definitely a hard act to follow. However, Tallinn still has its own charm, and from what I've read, its outlook is towards the future with its strong economic development. We'll be having dinner at one of the restaurants at the center of Tallinn by the town square. The place looks authentically ancient. Unfortunately, so did the food. Most of the time, it makes a big difference if the restaurant included is prepaid or you've chosen a restaurant yourself.
Where they had competitions for young men, like in horseback riding or archery, and he could choose a lady, you know, for the Countess of May.
That's why optional tours should be chosen carefully, especially if it's just mainly a meal.
There is a cafeteria, and I saw the commercial says coffee €1.50, which is very, very reasonable price. And sandwiches, and I saw elk sandwich, blue sandwich.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a turn off.
Is it like a hamburger? That's meatball.
Just a word of caution. Although tour directors know plenty about good and reasonable places to enjoy a meal, bear in mind that different nationalities have developed different likings for taste. What may be good for the gander may not be good for the goose. To say something is an acquired taste is just being euphemistic about not liking the food. We're now on our way to pick up our local guide. There is just a basic difference travelers should be aware of when visiting Eastern Europe and its former allies and visiting Western Europe.
Tere hommikust. That means good morning.
Morning.
So if it's morning, then you can, in our language, we say hommikust. But if you just want to say hi, hello, then you can say tere.
It is also worthwhile to mention that since in the Russian and hence former communist countries' communicative consciousness, there's a rule that the smile must be a genuine reflection of a good mood and a good relationship. For many centuries, everyday existence in the Soviet Union was a strenuous battle for survival. The life of the common Soviet was grueling, and worry became entrenched as a standard common facial expression. People already lived in the area of Tallinn 5,000 years ago, making it one of the oldest cities in Northern Europe. Throughout the years, many different nations controlled Tallinn and added some of the culture's most iconic attributes to the city. Tallinn has belonged to many different nations, from Russians to Danes to Germans to Estonians.
Mightiest fortification tower is Scandinavia. And this funny name is caused by the fact that up here, or not up here, but in Tallinn, the language that was spoken officially for a long time was a Low German. And Low German is a bit similar to Dutch. So every time when we get visitors from Holland and they say, oh yes, we do understand what it means, so it's almost...
The most important period in the architectural development of Tallinn was the 13th to the 16th century. Tallinn's Gothic architecture was influenced by the architecture of the island of Gotland, Lower Rhine, and Westphalen, and subsequently by the architecture of the Hanseatic towns and the German Order. This old town was inscribed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1997. Some people say that Tallinn is similar to Helsinki, while it reminds others of Prague. We'll be going around the old town of Tallinn from the town hall northwards to the other end, then back to the town hall again. The old town was pretty much of the same era with just a bit of Art Nouveau, unlike Riga. Estonia's official languages are Estonian, Russian, Finnish, English, and German. Among the religious population, Orthodox Christians and Lutheran Christians are the most prevalent. A bike tour of the old city of Tallinn, such as this one, is also available. If we were not part of a package tour, we would have ridden one of their hop-on, hop-off buses. From May to September, there are quite a lot of showers in Tallinn. Our trip was in August, but the shower was not that bad. You will be fine if you just have an umbrella ready. An umbrella with a picture of the country you visited is not only a nice souvenir, but a useful one at that. Because Tallinn has a humid continental climate, rain or snow from October to April is likely. If you're lucky, sometimes auroras can be seen over Tallinn. The cobblestones on the northern part of the old city seemed to be getting more irregular, but the site was just too enjoyable. Nobody seemed to mind. The old town seemed quite big with small establishments. There were interesting shops like this antique shop here where nice things can be chosen from. Walking through old towns with authentic old structures such as this one is better than walking through ancient Roman ruins where shops and restaurants no longer operate. The door of the House of Blackheads in Tallinn is not as impressive as the facade of the one in Riga, but it was also noteworthy. The last members of the Brotherhood left Tallinn in the 1940s as the Soviet occupation forces annihilated them. The Brotherhood of Blackheads was founded as a military organization, but the non-military aspects of the association gradually became more pronounced until the Brotherhood became a predominantly social organization. If there are cat sculptures at the old town of Riga, this is one of the cat sculptures at the old town of Tallinn. Unusual sculptures such as these are part of the architectural accessories of the old town. Although not as elaborate as the ones at Riga, the Art Nouveau buildings in Tallinn tried to catch up. We're on our way back to the Tallinn Town Hall after going around the old town. I would enjoy 2 to 3 more days exploring the bits and pieces of this delightful old town. In front of the town hall again. The atmosphere in this 1 square kilometer of Tallinn is quite festive. It's their tourist town. Estonian is the official language of Estonia and is spoken natively by more than 1 million people. Estonian is distantly related to Hungarian and to the Sami languages. We're on our way to a different exit to get out of the old town. We'll be passing through parts of Tallinn, which would be a street for shoppers. Again, a delightful treat. It's like going through the gift shop in a museum after having seen the exhibits. The only caution is against impulse buying. There's impulse buying and get it or you'll miss the chance. A good bottom line is always buy quality for the least amount of cash. There's also window shopping. Since the Baltic Sea takes up 80% of the world's amber supply, amber would still be the best souvenir from this area. It is greatly appreciated for its color and natural beauty. Color-wise, amber ranges from almost white to nearly black. What was interesting was the number of stores selling nice sweaters with Baltic designs. Unfortunately, they would be too warm for the weather where we came from. Purchasing one for future use would have been fine if not for the space it would also occupy in my suitcase. One nice, valuable souvenir for yourself can sometimes be better than several inexpensive common souvenirs to remind you of a country. Kadriog Palace is a Petrine Baroque palace built for Catherine I of Russia by Peter the Great in Tallinn. Both the Estonian and German name for the palace means Catherine's Valley. Petrine Baroque is a style of Baroque architecture and decoration favored by Peter the Great. Kadriog was started in 1718. Peter and Catherine visited the unfinished residence on several occasions, but after the emperor's death in 1725, Catherine showed no interest in the seaside property. After the declaration of independence of Estonia in 1919, the palace became state property. The palace currently houses the Kadriog Art Museum, a branch of the Art Museum of Estonia, displaying foreign art from the 16th to the 20th centuries. So from the Kadriog Palace in Estonia, we'll see you on the next DVD.